Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome to this week's edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. As always, before we dive into SummerSlam, the All-In card coming up, some interesting stuff with this program coming up this week, and everything in between. Juicy Steen on Twitter, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. You can subscribe to the Juice Box on YouTube at Juicy Steen as well, where you get the RSS feed. You can also subscribe to this on Apple Podcasts if you have the time. Swing by iTunes, leave a rating and review, and you can also do that if you listen to the show on Spotify. Additionally, the show is also on Amazon Music and, of course, juicysteen.podbean.com. What a week it was, and what a week this is here on the Juice Box. Last week was one hell of a week. We had, of course, SummerSlam in Cleveland. I was in attendance. Very fun show. Great atmosphere. Great fans. Cleveland was pretty spectacular. No complaints, really. I enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed there's a couple people I met there. Just interacted with. Some people I sat around. That was really cool. And additionally, of course, I saw Josh Eisenberg. He came out in Cleveland, which was pretty cool. And Mama Eisenberg was also out there, which was pretty cool to see. Her first pro wrestling show live. Had a couple brewskis, Charlie, and then we went to the show. I also got to finally meet up with a friend of the show, Corey, at My Kicks Are My Fix on Twitter. Huge wrestling fan. He attended the last couple Starcades, which I always will put in his bio as I describe it from this day forward. But talks wrestling all the time on Twitter and a bunch of different outlets. We also worked together on the Who Killed WCW post show for Final Bell Media with Andrew Baydala, Blake Mitchamore, and Ellis as well. So finally got to meet Corey in person. He had the replica World Heavyweight title, which was insane, and I loved it. It was cool to hold that title. I mean, the belts these days, you can, it felt like the real thing. So it's really cool to hang out and see him for a little bit after all this time. And yeah, SummerSlam was really a fun show, I thought. We're going to recap that. Pretty much that's where we're going to, leave most of this show because, I've got another piece of programming coming out tomorrow, as it were, and that's where we're really driving the ship this week for the Juice Box. 2 episodes. Last week we had 3 episodes. We had Triple Threat Theater Volume 5, The SummerSlam, and myself, Josh Cross, Donnie. Hell of a discussion. Really love chopping it up with those guys. I felt that we had a great discussion. The moments, our favorite matches, our favorite overall SummerSlam events, intertwined with just our banter back and forth, our commentaries over what our favorite stuff was from those eras. That was on Thursday. On Wednesday, we had Main Event Maniacs, the first true episode of Main Event Maniacs, Hogan versus Andre, WrestleMania 3. I felt that it was a strong start to Main Event Maniacs here under the Juice Box umbrella. And I'm proud of those guys for that first episode to dish out there. So that was the second part, or it was truly the first part of the 3-part SummerSlam week. And then, of course, on Friday, we had the SummerSlam prediction show featuring yours truly and Justin LaBar, formerly of Chairshot Reality, now, of course, representing Busted Open Radio, where you can hear him every Sunday morning, 9 to 12 a.m. to 12 p.m., of course, over there on Sirius XM, which is really awesome that he came on for the show. I thought our discussion was really insightful, actually. He brought up some good points, with the first Raw on Netflix and what that entails. Could they sell out a stadium for that? As well as our predictions, where I believe he went 7 for 7. I went 6 for 7. We disagreed on the CM Punk Drew McIntyre match, and of course, Drew McIntyre was victorious at SummerSlam, and LeBar was very happy about that, to say the least, as I sent him a text from my seat saying, "How dare you, you son of a bitch." Of course he got it right, but hey, that's why he's on Busted Open and I am on the Juice Box. But that was a triple set of episodes last week on the Juice Box. This week we've got this, of course, the normal week-to-week episode of the Juice Box. We're gonna cover SummerSlam, a couple of insider things, some news and notes. We're gonna discuss a little bit of the All In card. Full disclosure, this episode's being recorded before Dynamite, so, on August 7th. So nothing from that show will be in this show, unfortunately, so you'll have to potentially hear about it next week, which, of course, better do that, because the week after that, we do, of course, have All In coming up, so that'll be a prediction show. So we'll have all the news and notes leading into the big pay-per-view from Wembley Stadium. We also have some PLE notes for WWE. An interesting local note here in the Pittsburgh area for AEW as well. Some other notes, but I do want to mention, so I said 2 episodes this week, and this is going to air Thursday, but tomorrow, Friday, will be the SIP series, the 4th edition of the SIP series, and I sat down with a gentleman named Tim, who runs the Yeah Revolution Twitter account, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, LA Knight fan accounts, fan pages, support pages on the interwebs, and we had a very interesting conversation, a little over an hour and change. Of course, we discussed LA Knight, him winning at SummerSlam and how big that was, how LA Knight got him back into wrestling to where he wanted to start this account and get, the followers and build it up to help LA Knight grow overall, show, the office, the WWE office, hey, this guy's got some cachet, he's got some momentum, the people believe in him. Let's show that. Let's prove that. Let's put our money where our mouths are. And not only did we discuss LA Knight, of course, but Tim was kind of a trailblazer in the mid '90s. You'll hear this all in full detail, but he ran a 1-800 hotline for pro wrestling. He also had his own newsletter that eventually gained thousands of subscribers. And after all these little opportunities, he did work for WCW Magazine in the last couple of years, 98, 99, of that publication, which I felt was fascinating. He was in attendance for such shows as Slamboree 98, the Nitro where Ultimate Warrior debuted, and a show that I was not privy that he was at, which is the Monday Night Raw that was taped, where Mick Foley famously won the world title, and yet it was aired January 4th, 1999, where Tony Schiavone famously said, "Oh, and we hear that Mick Foley, once known here as Cactus Jack, is set to win their world title." Huh, that'll put a lot of butts in the seats. And lo and behold, over 500,000 viewers switched over from Nitro, saw the main event, got the Steve Austin pop of the century to help Mankind and Mick Foley win the world title, and really turned the Monday Night War in WWE's favor until the very end. So, didn't know he was at that show, but we've got a lot of fun stories in this episode for you guys tomorrow, Friday, August 9th. I had a great time. Like I said, I kind of reached out to him purely based on his WCW background. I'm a WCW guy. I was fascinated by him being at some of these shows, and then he let me know a newsletter, a hotline. He worked for the WCW magazine. And of course, the LA Knight stuff I felt was intriguing as hell, because LA Knight in the last, year and a half, give or take, has been on a uber rocket ride. And finally, as we finally will delve into SummerSlam, did in fact win the United States Championship. So let's go in to SummerSlam. As I said, I got to see Corey. I got to see Josh Eisenberg. And it was a fun show overall. I think the fans around me in attendance were all really invested. I think a lot of the wrestlers on the show were over with the fans. It was really nice to hear. It was nice to see and feel, as I was in Cleveland Browns Stadium. The stadium was really cool. It was pretty much on the water there. And I don't know, on Lake Erie there. It was just a cool little vibe. And outside of the parking and traffic that kind of was difficult to navigate, considering we had, I believe, Martin Lawrence and the Major League Baseball game featuring the Cleveland Guardians was happening as well on Saturday night. So quite the congestion in Cleveland on Saturday night. But SummerSlam was great. Jelly Roll started it off with God Bless America. That was not the last time we would see him appear. Of course, he hit a double choke slam, kind of like in the middle of the show, seemingly, which was pretty interesting. Jelly Roll is such an interesting guy, and I'm glad that it's funny though too. He also had, MGK was there, right? So Jelly Roll gets the choke slam on Austin Theory, of course. Awesome Truth's out there. Miz hosts the whole thing. MGK was out there. MGK and Jelly Roll have the one of the top rising songs, if not number one song, across the board, which is pretty cool as well. So kind of all falling into place for Jelly Roll, as it were. And, seemingly lifelong wrestling fan, said he lived out a dream by getting that choke slam. He also used a steel chair. It had to be such a fun moment for him. So cool to see that happen. As for the wrestling, I felt, in ring, it was decent to good. I wouldn't say anything was super spectacular. There was a lot of great moments wrestling-wise in the matches, and we'll discuss some of that. But I felt that the angles, the storylines, the stories that were being told, in the ring, as it were, I felt really drove the show. And I think that's fantastic for WWE. I think that's what they would want, ideally, and they got it. So let's run down the SummerSlam card. I'm going to recap it here, and then we'll go into a little bit of what happened on Monday Night Raw. And then a couple news and notes, and we will head on out so that tomorrow you guys can really enjoy the SIP Series episode, again, featuring Tim from the Revolution account. So double juice box this week. SummerSlam started off in the ring with Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. This turned out pretty much exactly how I felt it was going to. Rhea Ripley had her shoulder kind of dislocated. She popped it back in, which was really cool to see, a badass moment. Rhea Ripley was already a babyface, especially in this storyline, but she elevated it to a higher level, emphatically with this performance here. But it was cool to see Rhea and Dom come to the ring pretty much one last time. You knew that was how it was going to go down. But it goes out like this. Liv goes to get the steel chair, and then Ripley gets the chair. Was going to try to hit her, but Dom stopped Didn't want her to, lose that title opportunity, of course. But then, hit the oblivion. Morgan did. Almost a pin. And then Dom gets the referee distracted. Another oblivion on the chair. Wins the match. And as Morgan's on the outside, Liv is kind of stunned after she wins, but she's kind of down. And Dom picks her up and just plants, with tongue, a kiss on Liv Morgan, and that little son of a bitch, grin he had towards Rhea Ripley, pretty much signaling the end of Rhea and Dom, and showing, Liv Morgan is the new, I guess, member of Judgment Day, as it were, Judgment Day 2.0, which is interesting because we'll talk about Bloodline 2.0 later on in the show. But this was done to perfection. The storytelling, the facial expressions, the timing. Dom Mysterio, man, for being a little kid and having his custody on the line in a ladder match and having to, walk in the ring and have Eddie Guerrero scream at him and be a part of that huge moment back in 2005. And for him to be involved in this match here, SummerSlam 2024, it was just phenomenal to see how, he's grown up. It's just wild, how fast time can seemingly go. But to see him in this big spot, really knock it out of the park, I thought was really, really cool. So looking forward to seeing what they got going on with the Judgment Day 2.0. We'll talk a little bit about what happened on Raw this past week, of course. But then we got Sami Zayn, Braun Breaker. I will admit, I definitely lost a portion of my voice, particularly during this match, because I was barking like a maniac in the dog pound, as Rick Steiner would say, literally in the dog pound of Cleveland Browns Stadium. But, this is a quicker match. Braun really got the better of Sami, hits the spear twice, pins him, gets the Intercontinental title, his first championship on the main roster, and damn it, was it awesome. You check it out on social media. In one of the press boxes, suite areas there, you saw DDP, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, three of the best ever in WCW, showing up and showing out for, Braun Breaker, Rick Steiner's son. It was cool to see these old vets, up in the stands. It was a whole different atmosphere, there watching the matches instead of being the stars. And it was really cool to see that moment happen where they all kind of embraced and celebrated the new Intercontinental Champion with Braun Breaker. I'm looking forward to seeing what Braun's got going forward. I'm sure he's going to decimate quite a few on this road that he's on, a path of destruction. So I think the sky's the limit for Braun Breaker. I really hope that, we get a decent run. I'm not saying to surpass Gunther by any stretch. That's, well over a couple of years or almost 2 years. But I think it's very possible that he could take this to Royal Rumble or maybe, even WrestleMania, depending on how far they want to take it. But if they do that, whoever defeats him, it's gotta be worth it. So, shout out to Braun Breaker, new Intercontinental Champion. This match was discussed, as you'll hear, with myself and Tim, owner of the Yeah Revolution. Logan Paul defending U.S. title against L.A. Knight. Logan Paul in his Cleveland Browns gear. He had Machine Gun Kelly out there, which was pretty cool. He was disguised as a security guard and actually joined him at ringside. MGK, I'm sure, had PTSD of Kevin Owens powerbombing him off the stage quite a few years ago, but that was one of my favorite moments in Raw history, so I kind of hope something similar like that could happen again. One of the best spots of the night, if not the spot of the night, I think it was similar to a Takamichi Noku moonsault, but Logan Paul did a springboard from inside the ring. He pulled the ropes, jumped up, and immediately turned it into one fluid motion springboard into a moonsault to the floor, which was phenomenal. But the match ended with a brass knuckles shot to LA Knight. But as soon as Paul tried to follow up with the buckshot, Knight hit the BFT and won the U.S. title. Now, there's definitely a pocket of fans that are confused. You know, he got hit with brass knuckles and then kind of no-sold it and wins the match anyway. Like, how is that possible? How did that happen? Who made that ruling? You know, but crazier things have been no-sold in the history of professional wrestling. I would not really look too deep into it. I mean, LA Knight, this was his night. This was going to be his big moment, and maybe he was prepared for the brass knucks. Maybe he, I don't know, learned how to take a punch. He took a brass knuckles punch before the night. You know, he took one to the face. He knew he had the chin for it. I don't know. You figure it out yourself. But congratulations to LA Knight for being the United States champion. I do feel, you know, this is a stepping stone under the Triple H regime. Much like Braun Breaker, I think LA Knight, both those guys now could take these titles to a nice spot. And then once they don't have them anymore, I would like to see both of them in some sort of main event picture. And if LA Knight does eventually re-sign his contract and get a couple more years with WWE, then I would wager that a World Championship opportunity, if not win, would definitely be in the cards for Mr. Knight. But Braun Breaker, I think, as you know, that's pretty clear and evident as well. We did have Nia Jax and Bayley in the WWE Women's Title match. This was a pretty decent match, but it really just, you know, by the end is where it really started to pick up some steam. We had Tiffany Stratton come out with her music. Thought we were going to get a cash in with the referee. Bayley knocked off Stratton from the ropes. Clearly it was just a distraction. Jax tried to take that with a quick roll-up. Didn't get it. But then we got a powerbomb from Nia. Then the Annihilator. And as Nia hits that, she sat down with her arms crossed on Bayley, very reminiscent of Yokozuna, another part of the bloodline, and wins the match, wins the women's championship. I was really hyped to see Nia win. Again, the right move was made here. I think all the matches turned out the right way. So good for Nia Jax. So if we'll get to Gunther here, but in a moment. But King and Queen of the Ring, they both win the tournaments, and they both win their respective championships. This next match, though, no titles on the line, except for maybe CM Punk's bracelet. Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Seth Rollins as guest referee, and he was serving as guest referee in his very shiny pants. His shiny pants and me. But this was an interesting bout. Punk seemed to be okay. I'm glad he didn't get hurt. I know that's a low bar, but honestly, I was just more nervous that he was going to get hurt. Seth got knocked down by both guys. And, McIntyre got kicked out. Or he kicked out of the GTS because Rollins couldn't get over to count him. Punk was pissed. He hit the GTS on Rollins, and then McIntyre hit a low blow. And then, boom, you hit the Claymore. And Rollins, who, hesitated counting the 3, much like SummerSlam 97. He didn't want to give McIntyre the win, but he had to. He had to show that unbiasedness, and he did. Drew McIntyre wins, gets the bracelet from CM Punk, and leaves the ring. So we'll talk about what happened here on Raw and what is going to happen going forward with all those guys, because a lot of interesting pieces are now inserted into that story. We did have Damian Priest and Gunther, World Heavyweight title, on the line. Finn Balor did come down later on, and Priest got the South of Heaven chokeslam. He did hit it, but as he was pinning him, Finn Balor put Gunther's leg on the rope, And Priest did not like that. He knew that Finn betrayed him. He was pissed. Took out Balor and then got choked out by Gunther. He got out of it, but then kept going after Balor, and then Gunther took him out once again. Submission, chokehold, referee stops the match. Gunther is your new World Heavyweight Champion. I don't want to see Gunther lose this title for a very long time. Again, I'm not saying 666 days. I'm not even saying a full year. But I would say he's got to hold it past WrestleMania, if not at least until WrestleMania. We'll talk about it, but he's got Randy Orton coming up first as an opponent. But I mean, you have, maybe Priest again at some point, maybe Ilya Dragunov at some point, maybe Ludwig Kaiser at some point. Hey, if Braun Breaker were to lose his Intercontinental Championship, maybe Braun Breaker versus Gunther. Please give us that. A lot of interesting stuff there. I thought the match was great. It was probably the best overall match was Priest and Gunther. I felt that it was the best overall quality match in ring. And Gunther gets the win here. World Heavyweight Champion. Really cool to see that live. But, of course, we knew deep down what the main event was, and it was even more than just the main event. We had Cody Rhodes defending against Solo Sikoa, undisputed WWE title, Bloodline Rules, which was initiated on Friday the previous night before SummerSlam. Arn Anderson was backstage, kind of said, "Hey Cody, I got your back." First time in the WWE since 2019, but it's really cool to see him reunite here with Cody. He hits the crossroads at some point in this match. We get Tonga Loa, Tama Tonga coming out, and then KO, Randy Orton come out. Of course, Jacob Fatu comes in, hits a huge frog splash through the announce table on Cody. He looked like he hurt himself. And I did see that he was shown in a walking boot after the show. But I will say this, because of, spoilers, Roman Reigns coming out, I think that the, quote, injury was a work for Jacob Fatu. I hope it was a work. I hope he's not truly injured. But I felt that it was a perfect device where Jacob Fatu hits the frog splash, and it's his knee, right? So he gets up, but then he, very quickly, almost too over the top, sells his knee. I think I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but just watching how he reacted seemed unauthentic. It seemed more as if he was putting on that his knee was hurt. But I think it was a story device to where Fatu was never going to have that moment against Roman just yet. And I think we'll get there. But Solo had Cody back in the ring, and Cody hits the Cody Cutter, and then boom, Roman Reigns theme hits. First appearance since WrestleMania 40. The OTC, no, not over the counter, but the original Tribal Chief shirt. The crowd was unhinged, unglued, banana, and was pissed. He looked pissed at Solo. Took out Solo with a Superman punch, hit the spear with one of the biggest ooh-ah reactions from the crowd. Gave a stare at Cody, which was really scintillating. I mean, the story. WrestleMania 39, WrestleMania 40, the two huge Mania matches, these last two WrestleManias, culminating in Cody finally dethroning Roman Reigns. And Roman, giving him a look like, I'm going to help you, but it's not because I want to help you. It's because I need to get back my family. The Tribal Chief status is mine. Paul Heyman got busted up because of this. I think Cody Roman 3 is in the cards, and we'll see when that does eventually take place, but I don't think it will take place for a little bit. Because I think The Rock is going to get involved. I think Solo Sikoa and Roman have a score to settle. So we'll see, but Cody Rhodes gets the win, retains the championship, And all in all, I felt was a strong SummerSlam show. Let's quickly go to Raw and kind of detail what happened here. Like I said, Randy Orton kind of interrupted Gunther. He showed that, hey, you didn't beat me, really, at King of the Ring. My shoulder was up. I don't think that was very conclusive. And Gunther said, yeah, let's have this match. Bash in Berlin. He said nothing's going to catch him off guard, but Orton did say, I want you to see the RKO coming, because you're not going to be able to stop it. So there we go. Gunther, Orton in Germany should be phenomenal. Cannot wait to see how that match unfolds on August 31st. We had Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. Sheamus gets the win. And then, we're pretty much going to get Pete Dunne and Sheamus. If this happens at Bash in Berlin, that's two damn fine matches that could happen at Bash in Berlin in less than a month's time. So let's do that. And of course, if Orton were to win the title, he would go to Raw and Gunther would go to SmackDown. That's pretty much how they have to lay that out. But we're not even there yet. But Gunther's not going to lose this match. So Damian Priest was pissed, rightfully so. Called out Finn Balor, and of course, Finn Balor did not show up. He was on a video wall saying that JD McDonough will take on Damian Priest, and then he introduced the new Judgment Day, which was a cool shot, how the camera zoomed out, and boom, JD McDonough, Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, Carlito, and Finn Balor himself. So, Judgment Day 2.0, here we are. And I feel like we're going to get Priest. Well, here, we'll get to it here in a moment, but what I think is going to be the next, match with them. We'll discuss that here in a moment. But CM Punk comes out, and he's like, look, I lost. It is what it is. And he said, hey, I just want to fight. Like, I'm just glad that I got, I lost, and it was what it was. I made a mistake, but Seth Rollins interrupts the whole thing, and they're so close to fighting, yet Drew McIntyre comes out, bragging about how he wins, taunting him with the bracelet, and CM Punk goes after McIntyre, but then, boom, Bronson Reed, big Bronson Reed, comes out, annihilates Seth Rollins, hits him with 6 consecutive tsunamis, which are diving splashes from the top rope, and Bronson Reed is well over the 300-pound mark, taking out Seth Rollins. Rollins was spitting out blood, which was amazing, a visual to see. So, I mean, my God, this was really cool. It seemed like, Seth Rollins and Punk were destined, but I don't think we're there yet. I think Punk McIntyre might be destined for another match, potentially leading to Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood in October. But now we get Rollins versus Bronson Reed, which will absolutely put Bronson Reed on the map as a bigger bona fide star. So loved that. New Day versus AOP. The New Day get the win. But then, it was Karrion Kross and every the whole Final Testament came in, started to take out New Day. All of a sudden, out of literally thin air, Odyssey Jones comes out, helps the New Day, takes out AOP single-handedly with each member of AOP in each arm with a dual sidewalk slam. One hell of a visual, an impressive specimen Odyssey Jones is. He's been around for quite a long time and finally getting a chance to shine. Big E said, look, I'm basically giving the blessing to Odyssey Jones to help out with New Day. He's not saying he's a new member or anything, but still, I thought it was a really cool moment. And then, of course, we got A-Town Down Under. Awesome Truth. Really nothing thing happening. I don't know what. This is a Raw Super Show. There was so many different things from Raw and SmackDown happening on this show that I felt were interesting. Not sure if necessary, but it seemed like anything goes in regards to the branding. But Damian Priest versus JD McDonough here. Priest gets the win via DQ. And, of course, Finn Balor was the one to cause that DQ. Carlito, Dom, and Liv were out there as well. Rhea Ripley makes the save, chasing off Dom and Liv before Priest takes out JD with a massive monstrosity of a choke slam. Seemingly, we're going to get, as LeBar and I mentioned last week for the prediction show, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest versus Liv Morgan and Dom in a mixed tag. I think would be money. And then, last but certainly not least, the Wyatt Six made their in-ring debut, getting a win against American Made, which, not to be confused with American Males, not to be confused with Hulk Hogan's theme song from WCW, he's American Made. It was really nice to see Joe Gacy, Loomis, who looks nothing like Dexter Loomis, it's fantastic, Eric Rowan get the victory, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens going forward. It was really nice to see these guys in ring. It worked. How they played off the characters made sense. Like, these guys aren't, they're all crazy. They're being people that, they think they should be, and like Huskus, and I just love that, though. I thought it was a really, really cool moment, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Wyatt Six has going forward. I felt that this was the best Raw in years. Better than the Raw after WrestleMania, at least for the last couple of years, for sure. But yeah, I felt that, Odyssey Jones, Bronson Reed, the Wyatt Six, like putting these guys in huge positions to succeed. And now we'll see what they've got next week. But they're building to Bash in Berlin. Gunther, Randy Orton, the only match set for that right now. But before we close out here on what is a shorter episode of the Juice Box this week, but you're getting 2 episodes, of course. Couple of news and notes. The Lucha Brothers seemingly are going to be leaving AEW, going to WWE. The tag team division could use it, especially if they also were to get the Motor City Machine Guns. Wouldn't that be fascinating? I wouldn't mind seeing the Lucha Bros in NXT, to be quite honest with you. So we'll see where that leads. But if Lucha Brothers get to WWE and eventually get to the main roster, look out. Couple of show notes. Survivor Series is going to be in Vancouver November 30th. I don't think they've announced it as War Games yet, but Survivor Series will take place in Vancouver November 30th. Should be fun. I don't remember the last time Vancouver even had a show, but I'm looking forward to it. Survivor Series seemingly will be War Games with Bloodline versus Bloodline, so looking forward to that. And then, like I said, a local note, the 5-year anniversary show for AEW Dynamite is going to take place October 2nd, Pittsburgh, PA, Peterson Event Center. Pretty damn cool. I can't believe it's been 5 years since AEW debuted its weekly show Dynamite. I was in California at the time of the first couple of AEW Dynamites, so I never got to see the first Dynamite in Pittsburgh, which was, I think, the 3rd week. But I remember watching the first episode live and just thinking, like, wow, like, my dad and I and my mom, we'd watch Nitro, and Tony Schiavone's on there, and now all these years later, wrestling's back on TNT, Tony Schiavone again. What a crazy time that was for AEW coming in, doing everything to get on the map, putting out Dynamites, and here we are 5 years later, coming to Pittsburgh to celebrate its 5-year anniversary. So looking forward to that. Can't wait to be in attendance for AEW Dynamite. And yeah, it's always a great show. I'm waiting for WWE to put out some sort of show in Pittsburgh. I doubt this fall. Maybe next spring is more likely, but it is what it is. Yeah, this has been the Juice Box. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. Follow me on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. You can listen to the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com, and of course on Spotify, where if you listen to it there or on Apple via iTunes, please leave a rating and review. It really would help the show. and at Juicy Steen on YouTube, where you can hear the show every single week. Remember, tune in tomorrow for the Sip Series featuring Tim from the Revolution. And enjoy your weekend. I'll be back next week for more Juicebox greatness or goodness, however you really want to label it. Put those ratings and reviews on Spotify and iTunes and prove how good or maybe bad you think this show really is. But all kidding aside, appreciate the support and listenership here on the Juicebox, and I'll see you guys next week for another edition of the Juicebox. That was the Juicebox with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juicebox wherever you listen to podcasts.